Hello, everyone. Star Trek was never just a sci fi show, it was a mirror held up to humanity, quietly asking, what if we were better? From the very beginning, Gene Roddenberry imagined a future where everybody belonged. No matter your species, race, sexuality, background, or even whether you were human at all, you had a place. And there's the key part that modern Trek seems to have forgotten. It was never forced. The ideas weren't shouted. They weren't underlined with speeches. They were simply normal. And that's why they worked. In classic Trek, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, diversity wasn't a selling point. It was just the world. Take Geordi LaForge. He's blind. He wears a visor. And yet, that's never his defining trait. He's an engineer first, a problem solver, a Starfleet officer. The show doesn't stop to congratulate itself for including him, it just lets him exist with dignity. Or Data, an android struggling to understand humanity. The question wasn't, should we accept him? The question was, what does it mean to be alive? And there's Dr. Phlox from Enterprise, a Denobulan with radically different beliefs about family, relationships, and medicine. The crew doesn't mock him. They don't fear him. They respect him, even when they don't fully understand him. And in Voyager, we get the Doctor, literally an AI. At first, he's treated as a tool. Over time, he earns recognition as a person. Not because the show tells us to respect him, but because he proves his worth through character and action. That's classic Star Trek at its best. Old Trek trusted its audience. It believed viewers were smart enough to pick up on themes, sit with uncomfortable questions, and learn without being talked down to. The moral lessons were baked into the story. They emerged naturally from conflict, curiosity, and character growth. You didn't feel like you were being taught. You felt like you were discovering. And most importantly, the show was entertaining. Because at the end of the day, Star Trek is still television, not a lecture hall. Now, compare that to modern Star Trek. Instead of diversity being part of the universe, it becomes the focus of the camera. Characters don't just exist. They announce what they represent. Stories pause so messages can be explained. Dialogue turns into speeches. And the audience is no longer trusted to understand without being told exactly what to think. It stops feeling like Star Trek and starts feeling like homework. The subtle optimism Roddenberry believed in, replaced by moral spotlights and narrative megaphones. One of the clearest examples is the Jem'Hadar. For decades, they were established as a bioengineered species, created to be male only, designed for a very specific purpose within Dominion society. That wasn't an accident. It said something about control, exploitation, and artificial life. Star Trek Starfleet Academy alters that. Not because the story demanded it, but because the message did. And that's the problem. When you change established lore only to make a statement, the universe starts to feel fake. Star Trek stops feeling like a lived-in future and starts feeling like a checklist. Ironically, This approach does the opposite of what Roddenberry intended. His future didn't need constant reminders about acceptance, because acceptance had already won. No one made speeches about equality because it was already the norm. No one needed to prove they belonged because they simply did. By forcing the message to the front, modern Trek suggests that the future still hasn't figured this out. And that's a far less hopeful vision. This is why Star Trek's Starfleet Academy ultimately fails. Not because it includes diversity, but because it doesn't trust its own universe to support it naturally. Starfleet, as Roddenberry imagined it, was already past these arguments. Acceptance wasn't debated. Inclusion wasn't announced. It simply existed. But Starfleet Academy treats diversity as something that still needs to be explained, defended, and spotlighted, turning the future into a classroom of a lived-in reality. By forcing the message to the front, the show undermines the optimism that once defined Star Trek. Instead of showing a future where humanity has grown, it feels like a present-day lecture wearing a Starfleet uniform. And that's the real tragedy. Because Star Trek didn't change minds by telling people what to think. It changed minds by showing a future so compelling that people wanted to become part of it. Star Trek Starfleet Academy had the chance to inspire a new generation the same way. Instead, it chose to instruct. And in doing so, it forgot the very lesson Star Trek once taught best. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.